Okay, good evening. Welcome to the most recent installment of Building the Scottish State. I have the great honor to have with me Heather Graham, who is the #2 on the
Heather McLean.
Explain, excuse me. And you are #2 on the northeast
northeast list, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Second to Alex Salmon for the Alba party. Yeah. So first of all, thank you very much for being with us this evening, and it's a great pleasure to have you.
Okay, pleasure to be here too.
Okay, well, let's just start talking about your own experience in the independence movement in the SNP. And you mentioned when we were chatting beforehand, you mentioned you started getting involved you joined the SNP in 2011. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah, I joined in 2000 at the end of 2011. My dad was in the SNP, and I come from a family where politics was always discussed. Although, my sister and my mum used to say, oh, well, you two stop, talking politics. And, but my dad and I always had these discussions. And, right from when I was probably at college, I think I'd gone to Edinburgh to watch the Cheviot the Stag and the Black Oil at the Edinburgh Festival. And that's when I really sort of thought to myself, we've got this, and why aren't we benefiting from it? And went to college, graduated, went into teaching, and went about my job, and never really was politically active, although I always had an opinion about things. And when I was teaching, I always ended up being the EIS rep at school.
Could you explain a little bit more about that?
The EIS is the Educational Institute of Scotland, and it's the teaching union. Okay. So I was always the one with the gob that would, we'll get Heather to be the EIS rep because she'll stick up for us, and I did, and so I was always the one that ended up doing that. So I suppose that's kind of politics related.
Oh, it is, absolutely.
And when my dad joined the SNP, I can't remember exactly when he did. That's when I thought, maybe I should too. And so at the end of 2011, I joined the SNP. So I've always been a person, if I join something, I'm not sort of like an armchair person at all. If I join something, then I want to get involved. When I was younger, I did a lot of singing, and I wasn't content just to sing, or join a choir. I took singing lessons, and I took it seriously, and I joined Tayside Opera. And
yeah, you did it right. Yeah.
I mean, I get right into it, and it was the same when I started dancing. My sister went to dancing, Rock, modern jive. I joined as well, and we went in for competitions down in the Blackpool Tower Ballroom, the modern jive champs, the UK modern jive champs, and we won competitions and team cabarets and all sorts of things. So if I want, if I join something and if I believe in something, then I want to do the best, and I want to give of my best. So when I joined the SNP, I thought, right, well, I want to get involved here. So I went along to branch meetings, and I soon sort of, I went to the conference where Alex named the date for the referendum. And then, of course, it just went from there. I got more and more involved. We had Yes Cafes, and I was organising these things, and organising, helping with street stalls, organising women events through Women for Independence, because I was kind of like the person here in Dundee that was organising for them. We had meetings, we had events, invited speakers. I did all that in the independence campaign, and we even did a flash mob in the town. So I was like fully immersed in it, and I ended up being the membership secretary, and I organised things, events for members and whatever. So basically, I lived and breathed SNP, and I made a lot of friends through the SNP. But it's just
and had you always been an independent supporter? I mean,
yeah. I think when I was younger, I like I said, after I'd seen that play, I just thought, we really should be in control of our own affairs here in Scotland. It's kind of like, we're cheated. We were cheated. I never ever felt. I mean, I remember being at school even when Ted Heath was when Ted Heath was the Prime Minister. I mean, that's a long time ago. I'm giving away my age here. But I was ranting about, how dare he do this and how dare he do that, and, all this sort of thing. And then, of course, Margaret Thatcher and the poll tax. Of course, we were the ones that were experimented on with the poll tax. And I just thought, they're just taking the mickey out of Scotland. You know what I mean? We're like the lab rat, really, that they try all their policies on, and it's not fair. And meanwhile, we've got people living in poverty here. We've not, because like when you're a teacher, and you teach in some of these scheme schools, you open your eyes to a different world, because I think in a lot of ways you always think that other people are brought up the same way as you are and have a family like you are. But when you become, a teacher or a social worker, you see a completely different side of life. And you think, this isn't right. This is not right. Kids are coming to school and it's buckets of rain. They don't have a coat. They're wearing gym shoes because they don't have shoes, and I just felt that there's got to be a better way. And of course, when oil was discovered and, stolen from us, I just thought if we were independent, we would have that money to put things right in our own country. And, here we are, 43 years later, I'm still waiting for something to happen, But, I mean, like I say, when I joined SNP, I just thought I'm going to do the best I can here. And, I've been out canvassing, campaigning, delivering leaflets, anything that I could possibly do. And talking to people about independence. And, this is Yes City, and it's an SNP city. So I'm proud to live here, and I'm proud to know the people that built that up in Dundee. Because Dundee for a long time was, it was run by Labour, and there was a lot of things happened in Dundee. A lot of corrupt things happened in Dundee. And I won't go into that, but, at least we now have a council that are wanting the best for the city. So, I mean, I won't hear a bad word about any of the people in Dundee who are our elected members, our councillors and, MPs and whatever. But I just feel the SNP have kind of meandered down a wee lane, rather than keeping straight ahead on the road to independence. And when the Alba party was announced, I just thought, that's, I'm going there. And so I did, and it was a complete shock to a few people. I think it's probably a shock to quite a lot of people, actually. But I do believe that this government is not, the government we have in the Scottish Parliament are a government of mitigation, rather than, we got all these things from Westminster. Like me, I'm a WASPy woman, and I've been cheated out my state pension. As I see it, I've been cheated out my state pension, and that's the Westminster decision. If we were an independent country, I would like to think that wouldn't have happened to me. That the Scottish government would have provided a better alternative than saying, right, you've got to work till you're 66. I don't know whether that would have been the case, but I would like to think so. I would like to think a lot of the things that happen in this country would be better
Mm-hmm.
we were independent.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and talk a little bit about. Okay, so you were very involved in the of course in the independence campaign in 2014. Of course, the vote went the way it did, and then talk a little bit about your involvement with the SNP since then, because you had, of course, the election of 2015, where 56 SNP MPs were returned. Then you had the 2016 Holyrood election, where there was the that was based on the promise that there would be another referendum if there was a material change in circumstances. For example, the Brexit, and then there was the 2017 election, 2019 election, and now the 2021.
And it goes
How was your
on and on, and and it could be the next election, and we just don't seem to be getting any closer. It's like being on a treadmill, rather. You know what I mean? If you went to the gym and you're running on the spot. We're not traveling any further down the road. To begin with, I could see the logic of Nicola's idea that, I want to show that we are a competent government, and, that people could have faith in us and our ability to run the country. But I mean, she's proved that. And we're still no further down the road. We keep getting mandate after mandate after mandate. And, sooner or later, she's going to have to name a date, because a lot of people are losing faith. I just feel that it's always a promise, and it's a promise, and it's never ever kept. And people end up thinking, well, are they really serious about independence? I mean, I don't doubt that they are, but I don't see that there's any urgency for it that coming from the Scottish government. It's like a promise that's never kept.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and I mean, if playing sort of devil's advocate, I mean, they're in the UK. They have to, and Nicola Sturgeon has said that she wants to have the gold standard, Section 30, permission from Boris Johnson to hold a referendum, and then, who knows how, even assuming that he did grant one, there would be very likely be a higher threshold and all these things. How do you see independence coming about if not through a Section 30 order or a referendum, or how do you see that occurring?
Well, there's more than one way to skin a cat, as far as I'm concerned, and I don't pretend to know all the ins and outs of all the other ways that you can achieve independence, but I'm pretty sure that there are other strategies that could be followed. Other people have said, people that are, cleverer on that than I am. I'm sure Alex Salmon's got lots of different strategies that, that he could employ. And I don't see that the fixation on Section 30, it's like he said no. It's almost like a child asking mum, can I get this? Can I get this? And mum keeps saying no. Mm-hmm. And eventually she'll say, oh, well, okay then. I don't think Boris Johnson's going to do that. Mm-hmm. I really don't. I think if he is prepared to break international laws and international treaties, he's going to swat a Scottish request for a Section 30. He's going to swat that aside. Mm-hmm. But if there was, if there was a super majority, we would be showing that it is the settled will here, and we could probably begin negotiations, because if we end up having a whole load of Alba MSPs plus the SNP MSPs, it's sending a real message to Boris Johnson. This is serious. Mm-hmm. They really do want independence. And it'll show the international community as well, mm-hmm. that, yes, Scotland has the right to make that decision. I just, and then, like, I mean, I think Alec wants the Scottish government to begin negotiations straight away, and I'd be all for that.
Okay. Quick question. What position is Heather on the Northeast list? You're second, right?
Second, yeah.
Okay.
It's a bit scary. It's a bit scary because I'm, you know, I'd be the first person to admit, I mean, I'm not looking, I never ever saw this path for myself as a politician. You know, I mean, I'm a year away from a state pension. And, you know, people that know me know I like going on my holidays and all sorts of things. And most people my age would be looking forward just to having a quiet life. But, you know, life sends you down some, you know, paths, and you have to pick up the challenge when it's there. So when it was presented to me, I just thought, well, do you know, I believe in this. So I'm going to go for it, and I'm going to give it 100%. As I do with everything that I get involved in.
Yeah, okay. Let's see. Another question, Burns. And SNP say if we vote them back in, she will dish out free meals. Why does it take us to vote now? If she's been able to do that, she should have done it from the start. So how do you, I mean?
Yeah, well, yeah, again, it's, you know, what John Swinney came away with today is not really, I mean, it's just more, it's like a free gift in a comic, you know, it's pre-election. We'll give you laptops, we'll give you, you know, free school meals, we'll give you, you know, we'll increase the clothing grant and all the rest of it. It's like free giveaways, you know, to induce you. But that's not going to solve the real problem in education, which is, you know, the best resource in a school is its teachers. And I think the teachers have been treated really badly as far as the COVID thing was concerned. There's a lot of teachers very unhappy with John Swinney. I know that because, you know, I've still been teaching. I've been supply teaching, and I have.
What age group do you teach?
Primary.
Primary, okay.
So that's anything from like 5 and until about 11, 12-year-olds. And, you know, nobody ever consults teachers about what's actually needed in school. Nobody ever consults real teachers at the chalk face. There are, you know, I don't know if you're aware of this, but, you know, there are 1,700 teachers who don't have jobs. They come out of university, they're guaranteed a year's work, which is paid for by the Scottish government, and then they're thrown on the scrap heap because they can't get jobs. And the reason they can't get jobs is because there's another wee crop of graduates coming to take their place. Because in Scotland, you have to be registered with the General Teaching Council of Scotland, and to do that, you have to do a probationary year. So every year we've got all these students coming out, get a year's job, they register with the GTC, and then they have to leave because there's another lot of teachers coming to take their place. And because the Westminster government put the state pension age up to 66, teachers are having to stay on longer at the other end because they can't afford to retire. You know, so you've got a log jam there. There's, you know, there's lots of things that John Swinney needs to look at if he's serious, or if he's even still in that job after the election. But you know, as far as I'm concerned, the best thing he can do to raise attainment in school is to have smaller class sizes.
And be able to hire more teachers, obviously.
Exactly.
Okay. And what do you feel that your own personal experience can bring to, if you were elected and you're brought into the Scottish Parliament? What is it in your experience that you will be able to bring to bear on your priorities, for example, education,
Yes.
and also, of course, moving more forcefully towards independence?
Well, I mean, I've got 43 years experience as a teacher, and I know what it's like to teach at the chalk face. You know, and people don't consult with real teachers. You know, there's I can't be able to quote this. There's no one on the teacher workforce planning advisory group who's an actual chalk face teacher, and that's something that needs to change. Nobody consults with the teachers in the classroom. They'll talk with professors, they'll talk with people who are, you know, in the GTC, they'll talk with advisors, or, you know, the people who are in charge of the council, you know, the council officers, but they don't ever consult with teachers at the chalk face. That's something that needs to change. And I think that if I was elected, I've got my teaching experience, and I've also got, you know, I'll have a voice. I'd be able to give a voice for the ordinary teacher, and know what, you know, what's important, and be able to talk from a position of experience.
Yeah. Okay. And what is, let's see, and what percentage of the list vote would be necessary for you to be elected? Being number two.
I haven't a clue. I'll just be honest. I haven't a clue, but you know, I don't know. I don't profess to really understand, but you know, from what I understand, SNP got 137,000 votes on the list in the Northeast in the last election, and none of them, we elected no MSPs. We got all, you know, we got all the constituency MSPs, but because we got so many constituency MSPs, it was almost like we were started from a handicap, really, in the list. And we didn't get anybody on the list. I'm not quite sure of the percentage, but you know, if you've got a second vote, why not vote for another independent supporting party? I mean, it just makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Rather than vote in Tories and Labour and Lib Dems or whatever, you know, why not give it to the Alba party? It just makes sense.
Okay. And you've alluded to another comment. The Scottish government has increased the number of teachers by 1,200 plus 200 teaching assistants since COVID. So assuming that's correct, is that sufficient, or how do you see it?
Yeah, but they're on 1-year contracts. There's no guarantee that that's going to continue. And you know, I know from my personal experience that I've got friends who were given those COVID recovery jobs, but they're only on 1-year contracts, and with no guarantee that they're going to be kept on, or that they'll even have employment after that. And there are an awful lot of people who haven't had any work at all. Okay. I personally hadn't worked from March last year, just before Easter, and on my calendar, I was telephoned on the 8th and asked if I could start work. And I was working for 3 weeks before Easter, but that's the first time I've worked since March last year. The thing about a lot of supply work is that it's you'd be surprised to know that it's 0-hour contracts. Now, you would never think that in teaching that you have teachers on 0-hour contracts, but basically that's what it is. So we're not entitled to furlough, we're not entitled to anything, I'm in a WhatsApp group with other supply teachers. Some of these are young girls who have maybe taught for a year and then have been, you know, thrown on the scrap heap. They have to try and get work. If they don't get work, obviously they're not getting paid because they're on 0-hour contracts. They're going, some of them, I mean, it's heartbreaking to hear some of the stories. They're going to food banks. They're having to get loans from parents. There's no job security, so they can't get mortgages, they can't get loans. And you would think teaching, that doesn't happen in teaching, but it does. Mm-hmm. And, we need a situation where people are graduating and they get real jobs. Mm-hmm. Part of the problem, I think, for me is, the universities obviously get fees paid from the Scottish government. So universities are businesses, they're private businesses, they're not actually part of the state education system. So, like any business, if you're getting paid money for every student that you take on, you're going to take on lots of students. Why not? Mm-hmm. The government's handing out money for every student. So they need to look at how many students they're taking in so that when they graduate, they're going to real jobs. Mm-hmm. And then at the other end of it, they need to provide some sort of incentive for people to say, right, okay, I'm done and I've worked, and I'm 60 and I'm knackered and, and the primary ones are taking all my energy, so I need to wind down. Some sort of incentive for the teachers at the other end to say, well, can I wind down? Is there a wind down scheme, or is there a mentoring scheme that I could, team teach with some of these young girls and mentor them? They need to look at that. Otherwise, the situation is just going to go on and on and on. So it's like recruitment, retention, and retirement. It's all tied up, and nobody ever looks at the whole picture. Mm-hmm. The other thing is, it's such a hard job that people are leaving the job. Mm-hmm. They are leaving the profession. Mm-hmm. And I can't remember. I had figures. 44% of new graduates do not continue their GTCS registration after the first year. So my question is, why are they leaving the profession? They're leaving it because they can't get permanent jobs. So they're going into something else. Now that's a loss of investment, because that's money that the Scottish government has poured in to teaching, into universities who are teaching these people to become teachers. That's 23 million of wasted money, as far as I'm concerned. They really need to look at the whole picture. Mm-hmm. So that would be something that I would be wanting to sort of, do something about if I was elected.
Mm-hmm. Certainly. And let's see. So, there's inevitably questions like this that I just like to get out of the way. What would you say to those who are saying that Alba is all about Alex Salmond's ego and it's a bid to get back at Mrs. Sturgeon?
No, not at all. Not at all. That man has lived his whole life for independence because that's something that he believes in. And he's actually, I think people that say that don't really know the real Alex Salmond. Yeah, he comes across as, confident. My phone. I thought, could I, 2 seconds.
Okay.
Hello, can I phone you back later? I'm on Independence Live, so I'll have to leave you just now. Okay, no bother. What was I saying about the phone going all the time? Yeah.
So back to Alex Salmond. Yeah.
Yeah, back to Alex Salmond. don't see that at all. I don't see it as an ego thing. I see it as he has dedicated his life to the cause of independence, and he sees that it's not happening anytime soon. And so, you know, he's decided that he wants to come back into the fray. I don't think it's anything to do with an ego. And I mean, I know that he will not hear a word about heard against Nicola Sturgeon. I know that for a fact. He won't hear anything bad about her at all. And
what do you think I mean, obviously you don't see him as having this big ego, or that it's a misperception. I mean,
you know, it's a Scottish thing.
Just very quickly, why do you think people have this perception that he has this massive ego, that he always has to be in the spotlight, blah, blah, blah?
Yeah, it's a Scottish thing, isn't it? You don't want to get above yourself. Right. You know, just Scots are great at build, you know, when people get, you know, famous or big, you don't want to get above your station. And I think it's just the Scottish psyche. They're not used to people being so confident, and you know, I think it's a lot to do with that. You know, they see him as somebody that's arrogant and, you know, full of himself. It's just a confidence, and it's a belief within himself that he is on a mission to get Scotland independence. I don't see it as an ego thing. He's a very clever man, and he is confident in his own abilities. And I think people that think it's ego, I think they've got him all wrong. I've got nothing but admiration for him, really.
Because I've been told that about, you know, I mean, grew up in the United States. I mean, it was all, my parents were always pushing me to get, you know, it was expected that you would go to college and get a good education and all that. But I've talked to, you know, many kind of working class Scots, and, you know, the whole idea of, you know, going up above us, as you say, your station is like, you know, oh, you're too big for your britches. Oh, you think you're better than us. You know, what are you doing? You know, that kind of thing. And I you know, and I realize the degree to which that can hold people back, which I think is really unfortunate. The idea that if you go on to, you know, get an education and do well, that you're somehow betraying, you know, your family or the people you come from. So I mean, you think Alex Salmon being perceived as arrogant, or as, you know, is kind of an extension of that.
Yeah, I think so. I think people think he's too big for his boots, or, you know, he's arrogant. I don't see him like that at all. I just see him as somebody who has made it his mission in life to get independence for Scotland. And I think people who have got, you know, various different impressions of him have got him all wrong. And, you know, I've met him. Obviously, I'm getting to know him a lot better now through this campaign. But on previous occasions, I'd met him, and I mean, I was probably a wee bit starstruck at the time, because I just joined SNP and he was the first minister and all the rest of it. It's been nothing but a gentleman, you know, nothing but the most polite person and a perfect gentleman. So all the stories about him, I just think, I don't believe it, and I think it's all made up. Yeah. But then nobody will ever know the real truth, because it's all sort of, you know, no one's allowed to know. It's kind of all
under court order. Yeah, a lot of this is
but I met him on 2 different occasions when he was first minister. Both of them were at conferences, and the man's got an amazing memory, really an amazing memory. And I met him and I was introduced to him, and I asked if I could have my photograph with him. So he asked me what my name was and where I was from and all the rest of it. And I just said, you know, I'm McLean, I'm Dundee branch and whatever. And then that was in Perth at the autumn conference. And then some months later, there was I think there was a conference in Aberdeen. And I'd been at one of the Fringe meetings and I'd come out early. And I bumped into Alex Salmond and his wife Moira, and there was a whole load of people with him. And he said, "Oh, Heather," he said, "how are you? Are you enjoying conference?" And I was like, wow.
Mm-hmm.
He remembered my name. He remembered where I was from. He remembered everything that I'd said to him. And he introduced me to his wife. And I was like totally blown away that somebody would remember me, who I'd only really spoken to him for like 5-10 minutes. And I was totally impressed. But the thing is, I think he's genuinely interested in people. And he makes a point of listening when folk talk to him. And that's something that, you sometimes speak to folk and, it's like they're not really listening to you, they're just
Yeah, great.
But I was blown away at how genuine he was.
Mm-hmm.
And he was, to me, struck me as a perfect gentleman, very knowledgeable, very clever, and a great communicator.
Mm-hmm. And I don't think there's any question that the way he's portrayed in the media has had a very, obviously substantial impact of people's perception of him.
Yeah. I mean, if you read the charges against him, I mean, I'm sorry, but I mean, really pinging someone's hair or attempting to ping someone's hair, sorry, but if I had £1 for every time somebody did that to me, I'd be living in a Greek island right now, and I wouldn't be sitting here with you. You know what I mean? When I was younger, my hair was down my bottom, and it was long and sort of a coppery, reddish auburn colour, and was my crowning glory. And people used to always want to touch it. Oh, your hair's beautiful. If I had £1 for every time somebody did that to me, I wouldn't be worrying about the state pension or no getting it. You know what I mean? I just, I just don't understand. I just think I'm really quite speechless when you see what the charges were. Mm-hmm. I don't believe for a minute that he was, I don't know.
Okay. But before moving on, if you could just make a comment about what people seem to completely misinterpret about Alex Salmond.
I think they misinterpret his dedication to Scotland. They, like we've said before, they perceive him as arrogant, self-centered, egotistical, and I don't think he's that at all. And the whole thing around the court case, I think the press went in there complicit in trying to crucify him, basically. Mm-hmm. And from what I can understand, nobody stayed to hear the defence. They only went along for the prosecution. Mm-hmm. They didn't go along to listen to the defence because they weren't interested, because as far as they were concerned, he was guilty and that was it. Mm-hmm. They'd made up their mind. They didn't even stay to listen to the defence witnesses. No. They'd probably written all their columns already, or the verdict, guilty. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I watched your interview with Kenny McCaskill, and I don't have the facts and figures of all the police investigations and all the rest of it. But I mean, really, Kenny said that money spent on all those police hours could have been far better spent, solving real crimes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. A couple positive comments. Best of luck, Heather. You'll do great. Another one, we need more folk like Heather instead of the pumped up career politicians that seem to have invaded the SNP.
Well, that's another story in itself, isn't it? If one thing I did notice, I went along, to all the election counts and everything, and I used to laugh because, you'd see these young laddies and they'd be shirt and tie, their clipboard and their pointy, shiny shoes. And, you'd say, oh, and what's your name? Oh yes, I'm Mark somebody or other or whatever. And who do you hear about? Oh, I'm here with the Labour Party. You knew them, and you'd say, so are you at university or do you work? No, I'm at university. I'm doing a degree in politics, and they were all sort of like politics graduates. Now you go along to the election counts. And that's my dog, and he likes to get in. He likes to get in on the act. No show without punch. And of course, now the politics graduates are joining the SNP.
Mm.
And why would what career path would a politics graduate want to pursue?
Mm-hmm.
A political career as a politician, and I think that's partly what's wrong with SNP. They're not joining the Labour Party anymore. They're joining the SNP. Why? Because that's the party of government. You wouldn't want to join the party that wasn't doing well.
Mm-hmm.
You would, if you wanted a career in politics, you're obviously going to join the winners, aren't you? And so that's partly what I think is wrong with SNP. There are far too many careerists in it, and not people who are actually dedicated to the policies and the cause of independence. Okay.
I do want to caveat that this is not the view of Independence Live, that I was simply repeating a question from that. So I just wanted to be clear on that, because we certainly want to remain neutrality, and we want every pro-independence party to feel more than welcome in coming and being interviewed. So I just wanted to specify that. So
No, that's all right. I just feel, that there's far too many people who are joining now because they want a career in politics. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm not a career politician, and I'm not pretending to be. And if somebody asks me a question and I don't know the answer, then I'm not going to sit and bullshit. I'll tell you I don't know, but I'll find someone that does know, or I'll go and find out for you. So that's tell the truth and shame the devil. That's it for me.
Okay. And let's see. So we've got about another 15 minutes left or so. But I'd like to talk about. I mean, you've alluded to some of the things that you'd like to see in an independent Scotland: a better educational system, obviously better,
pensions.
Yeah, exactly. All the free stuff that we're, no, I'm kidding. Yeah. But what else would you like to see, just in terms of the way that Scotland is governed? I mean, once it become independence, you'll have a lot of the powers that are currently with Westminster that will be held by the Scottish government. And what are some of your ideas on how those powers can be better exercised for the benefit of Scotland, rather than compared to the way it is now? I'm sure the list is very long, but
well, we would have our own social security system. So hopefully we would be able to help people who are less fortunate, people who don't have jobs, people who have lower incomes, people who, I like the idea. I mean, I don't know how it exactly works, but I like the idea of the universal basic income. I don't know if that's going to be the Alba Party's policy, but I like the idea that there's a basic amount of money that will help everybody across the board, so that no one is falling through the cracks. Mm-hmm. Everybody will at least have something, and enough to live on, so that there's no people sort of begging on the streets outside, Marks and Spencer's with a cap, hoping that you're going to throw some coppers. To me, that's an abomination in this country. So I would hope that in an independent Scotland that we would be able to put something in place so that those situations and those kind of things just don't exist. Mm-hmm. I would want to get the nuclear weapons off our soil. In fact, I just think they're an abomination. I wouldn't even be comfortable if they moved them down to England, because they're still too close for comfort. I mean, I'm maybe talking rubbish here, but are they not? Is there not nuclear weapons not illegal? I don't know.
Well, there's been treaties to try to limit them. You've had the SALT and all the ones between it, but I mean, no, they're not illegal because there's under international law, they haven't been banned, and even if they were banned, it's very difficult to do it. There's obviously treaties to limit them and stuff like that, but they're not always obviously not.
I'd have them banned, and I certainly would have them removed from Scottish soil. I would like to see, I'd like to see ports opened so that we can export and import without having to go down through England. And obviously, if he were Scottish, independent here, that would happen. We're going to have.
What about the EU relative the European Union? Because I understand that Alex Salmond is supposed to be making a policy statement this weekend, I believe, about Scotland and Europe, and the possibility has come up for joining the European Free Trade Association, EFTA.
EFTA.
Yeah, rather than
and I believe that if we were independent, we could join that virtually straight away.
I can confirm. I've been in touch with EFTA officials, and
I think that
all Scotland needs for that is to have the powers to sign international treaties, and the competence to sign international treaties, and the powers to abide by them, so that they can enforce any.
So that's the Nordic countries, isn't it?
It's not explicit. It's Iceland, Norway, Liechtenstein, and Switzerland. And you also have Sweden, which is in the EU, and so you have a mix of them. And then there's only 4 of them, and 3 of them are in the EEA, the European Economic Area. The 4 of them minus Switzerland, and Switzerland's not in the EEA. They have a huge amount of bilateral treaties, and it's really complicated for them. It's a lot easier if you're in the EEA. And once you're in the EEA, you can rejoin Erasmus, all of the European programs. Scotland could pick which ones it wanted to participate.
That's a travesty. That is a travesty. That our students can't go and study abroad. I mean, really, and I think, were there not to be, we had the chance to do it, but Westminster said, no, you're not getting it. I can't remember. I can't remember. I seem to remember reading something. You read so many things and your head kind of explodes with it all, but I'm sure that there was an offer of some description of the possibility that Scotland could still be included in it, and that was vetoed. I just think that's a travesty for our students. It's an opportunity lost to a generation, the Erasmus thing. I think that would be great if that was, if we were able to do that.
Yeah. Also, when a new country is founded, normally there would be a written constitution adopted, something that I've been working on for since I got involved. Yeah. And but the fear that I've had is that there would be some vote, and then whoever founded whoever wrote the Constitution would be much too close to oligarchs, and the way, for example, the way that the United States Constitution was written, very oligarchical system. I mean, it's become more democratic with the expansion of the franchise. But as John Jay, one of the framers of the Constitution, often said, one of his favorite maxims was, those who own the country ought to run it. And I think it would be absolute trap. I mean, in my view, it would be a travesty for Scotland to achieve independence, only to have it, the state designed in a way that it primarily benefits, the oligarchs, as it is in and rather than that. So
I think that the people of Scotland, the grassroots, should have some kind of input into what goes into the Constitution. And I think that's only right. We're making a decision. We're asking the people of Scotland to make a decision to become independent. So it's only right that they have an input into that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any view on what form of state, whether maintain the monarchy, become a republic, become a, have you?
Do you know, I was, the funny thing is, I was always kind of like, you know, we should be a republic, we should be a republic. And then my friend Lee, who watched The Crown, he said to me, oh, you have to watch The Crown, it's really good, it's really good. And I said, I'm not watching that, that'll be a load of rubbish. I don't believe in the monarchy anyway, you know, I think we should be a republic. And he kept saying to me, you know, well, you know, it's on Netflix, you should watch it. So I did. And actually, I've got a lot more sympathy for them, actually, since I watched that. I was fascinated about, I love you know, history and everything. So the historical things, you know, that happened, it's not just about the Queen, it's about, you know, all the sort of history and everything, and the events that were taking place during the reign. But I actually have a wee bit more sympathy for them than I did initially. I'm not a monarchist. Honestly, I haven't gone over to that, you know, reverse that. But I do have a lot more sympathy for them. I do think that we should still be a republic, but I think we should wait, obviously, until the present monarch is no longer with us. You know, I just think that's maybe the natural way to go.
Okay. Okay. Another somewhat controversial question. Why do we need Alba when the Green Party supports the SNP on independence? Tee up.
Well, you know, the Green Party for me, I mean,
Again, these are strictly your views. I'm reading your question.
These are my views.
And this is not
you know, I have a lot of things that I would agree with the Green Party on. And, you know, if the Alba Party was not, you know, hadn't sort of come forward, then I would have been thinking, you know, because I don't think the both votes to SNP really is worthwhile here in the Northeast, I would have been considering giving my second vote to either ISP or to the Greens. Because, you know, I think a lot of the aims of the Greens, you know, about the environment and about, you know, nature and wildlife and recycling and all this sort of thing, I think, you know, I'm totally 100% behind them on that. But to say that they're an independence party, yeah, they support independence, but conversely, if by some miracle the Labour Party were the party of government after the election, I'm quite sure that the Greens would work equally well with them as well. So I don't know. I mean, I don't want to sort of, I don't want to malign anybody, but I do feel that they will do what's expedient for them. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay. Again, I've got
great admiration for. I mean, I know that Maggie Chapman is one of the list candidates here in the Northeast, and I have great admiration for Maggie. She's a principled lady, and she's very smart, and I think she would be a great addition to the Scottish Parliament. So I'm not prepared to say, you know, don't vote Green. But I would prefer you to vote for the Alba Party, because we are 100% a party of independence.
Okay. So, okay, we can wrap it up here in a couple minutes. But if you just want, if there's anything you'd like to say or anything you'd like to, you know.
I'm not often lost for words, really, to be quite honest. But I find this is strange for me, you know, having an interview like this. You know, I could stand in front of 350 children at an assembly and take an assembly and do a sing song and all the rest of it. But I'm finding this is really quite strange. You know, it's not something that I went looking for. I didn't ever look to be a politician as such. I've got views and I'll express them, and you know, I'll support, you know, and I have supported SNP in Dundee, but I never ever thought that I would be sitting here in this situation. So it's like an alien planet for me, and I think it's taken a wee bit of getting used to. But you know, one thing that I promise, you know, if I am elected, I'll not be bullshitting anybody and pretending I know about something when I don't actually know about it. And I know that, you know, that's often what politicians do. You know, I will try my best to be truthful and to do whatever it takes to you know, push forward independence for Scotland, because I feel that's the right thing to do. I've got a daughter who's 26, and you know, one day she's going to have children, hopefully. Maybe I'll be a granny, but maybe not too quickly. But you know, I'm not in a hurry to be a granny, put it that way. But I want a better country and a fairer country for any grandchildren. I certainly want it for my daughter. I want opportunities for the children that I teach. You know, I think it's only right that they have the best country that they can possibly live in, and not to be, you know, subjected to the whims of a government in another country. Because we don't vote for Tory governments in this country, but we get them whether we like it or not. And you know, sometimes and most times, what they decide is all right for England is not all right for Scotland. I think we can do better.
Absolutely. If Alba are successful in persuading the Scottish Parliament to ask the government to open negotiations with Westminster, could we call a constitutional convention to be convened, including unionists? My own view is absolutely. Everybody has to be. Well, any constitutional thing has to be inclusive,
consulted with the people. Yeah,
exactly, and that their basic rights are respected. And I think that there should be. I mean, my own view is that as soon as possible, after success, you know, if there's a pro-independence majority, that an interim constitution should be adopted, which guarantees rights for everyone, so that nobody feels like that, oh, well, they're on the losing end, so they're going to get persecuted or anything like that. That can't.
We're all equal in this party. You know, there's nobody got more rights than anybody else, and I think that's only fair.
Yeah. Okay. All right, one last one. Go Heather.
I just want to say, you know, it's been a real pleasure to be on here. It's been quite strange, but it's been a pleasure to be on here, and I hope that people do see the sense and logic of voting in the list for the Alba party, because we really are 100%. For independence. I mean, that's our reason for being, and you know, it was the reason for being for SNP and still is, but they also have to govern, you know, so they've had to, you know, they've sidetracked a wee bit, but the Alba party are 100% for independence, and the sooner the better.
Okay. All right. On that note, thank you very much. And you did great. So, you know,
God, it's probably the maybe not quite scariest thing I've done in my life, but it's certainly been, you know, a bit strange.
Okay. Well, I'm glad, you know, you did great. So, okay. All right. So goodbye, everybody. And thank you for watching.
Bye, everybody. Remember, vote Alba.